Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. I hope everyone is having an incredible Tuesday. We all wish it was Friday. We can't lie, but it's Tuesday. So it means that tomorrow's Wednesday and the weekend is almost back to us. Hopefully, you're enjoying many of gaming experiences that are available on Xbox, especially through Xbox Game Pass. I know that you have to be playing Doom: The Dark Ages. My favorite in the trilogy for sure. I got 950 gamer score out of 1,000. That last 50, Jamie Moran, is going to be a bit of a grind, but you know what? I kind of needed a bit of a palate cleanser, and I went back to playing some old school 2D beat 'em ups. And I got to get back to Expedition 33 because shamefully enough, I'm still in the water level. And I know I know people like, boom, you got to get to the end of chapter 1. And your mind is going to explode.
Yep.
And I want to get there. But Jamie Moran, good afternoon, kind sir. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Lots of cool gaming news going on. Some unfortunate stuff in the gaming news as well. Great games going on. Like I say every week, there's so many good games right now. I don't know how anyone can complain. I'm like 6 chapters or 7 chapters into Doom: The Dark Ages. Just finished the dragon level.
Nice.
Absolutely incredible. Like peak Doom. Expedition 33. I think I'm close to the end of chapter 2.
Oh wow, good for you, man.
At the end of chapter 1 is going to blow your mind, by the way.
I know. I keep hearing that. I'm jealous. I want to get there so bad.
Yeah, it's so good. Playing through Avowed and Oblivion, there's way too many games. Way too many games, not enough time. But hey, happy to be here. Let's talk about some gaming.
Okay, so listen, before we get into some of the massive topics, and of course we are waiting Infinite Umbra, I gotta make a correction, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one of the things that I pride myself as a podcaster and a host is I gotta get it right for the audience. But I didn't get it right. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't get it right last week. So last week, the 3 of us here covered a topic regarding a story that came the way of Windows Central. Okay. Now that story was titled, let me just pull it up right here. It was titled that basically the Xbox platform has become a Game Pass machine. Now, of course, I pushed back heavily on that. And I, of course, mentioned Jez Corden of Windows Central. Well, here's the thing, folks. I love Jez. I've met him multiple times. Great tip of spear journalist, in my opinion. But he did not write the story. And that is where I got it wrong. Now, you know that when I do read these articles, I do usually read exactly who is writing the article for the credit is due kind of a thing. If I'm going to use someone's work, I not only am going to read who wrote it, but I'm also going to supply a link for it in every video / podcast we did. And I, in fact, did do that. But we were politely informed that Jez Corden didn't write the article, and his name is Michael Hogland. And he goes by Mike J. Raymond, not to be confused with J. Raymond, okay? A different J. Raymond. But it's Mikey J. Raymond on Twitter. And, he wrote the article, and I made the changes necessary, but I wanted to give the credit where credit is due because, again, journalism is hard. And the reason why I thought that Jez wrote it is because he posted about it. But what Jez does, which I do appreciate, and I'm sure the journalists, especially some of the younger journalists at Windows Central, well, he promotes their work as he should, as being a senior member there. But just to give you the heads up of who Michael Hogland is, he's a contributor for Windows Central. He has been gaming since he was 5 when his mother first bought a Super Nintendo from Blockbuster. Having written for a now defunct website in the past, he's joined Windows Central as a contributor, spreading his 30-plus years of love of gaming with everyone he can. And some of his favorite games include Red Dead Redemption and, of course, Dark Souls 2. But I just wanted to give Michael his credit, and he did, in fact, write that article. And, of course, one of the big things with me as a creator is when I get it wrong, I got to come out front faced and let you guys know that I did get it wrong, which I did, and of course correct that. But Jamie Moran, we have a lot to get into, and look, we don't like being negative here, folks. But the truth of the matter is that we have to get into what seems to be a spiraling out of control Bungie. And I don't even know where to start. Like, honestly, I'm never at a loss for words, but I kind of feel so overwhelmed with the amount of bad news that is coming out of this studio in the last, 7 to 10 days that it's almost difficult to try and figure it out and make it into a conversation that we have. But what I'm going to do, Jamie Moran, as we wait for our infinite number to get here, I'm going to read some of these headlines. And of course, as a host of your own show, we'll let you go wherever you want to go. You're a paraprofessional. So, one of the most damning reports comes the way of Paul Tassi. Now, Paul Tassi writes for Forbes.com, and basically his last article, which I have in front of me, was posted on May 19th, 2025. He says in the title, "It's just over for Marathon." Now, again, I'm just reading the title. I'm going to provide the link in the show notes. But again, because there's literally so much information, I do want to read some of the other headlines that have taken the breadth of gaming across the board. So this comes the way of Marathon Bulletin on Twitter. And it goes on to tell a story about an ex-Bungie developer that says Marathon leadership was so extremely toxic and humiliating, it was hard to work with. And it goes on to say the Bungie leadership needs to be gutted completely. Now that story came out, or that interview came out, at the GamePost.com. Again, I'm going to supply all of these links in the show notes once the show is done, if you'd like to read them for yourself. But that's not where it ends, folks. According to, again, Marathon Bulletin on Twitter, and this is where Sony, PlayStation, and Bungie are in a pickle. In a new report, again, from Marathon Bulletin on Twitter, Marathon apparently, Jamie, needs to break into the top 5 NPD sales of the year to be considered a success, it's claimed. Well, good luck for that. But again, folks, as you would imagine, the bad news continues. Now, as it was reported about last week, Bungie was accused of stealing artwork. Now, this is not the first time they've had this accusation made against them, but, well, needless to say, it happened for the 4th time. And that's not where this story ends, but I'm going to talk about it because, Jamie, stealing artwork is gross. They are a company. They're a $1 million company. They were bought and purchased for $3.6 billion by Sony. Added to the PlayStation studios with the thought and the theory that their professionalism and knowledge on how to make gas games work would assist Sony in their future gas game endeavors. Well, that has failed. But this stealing of the artwork is incredible. Well, if you thought that the one artist that came out and posted about his artwork being used in their level design, literally 1-to-1, well, we have a report here from IGN.com that was posted on May 19th, and I have that in front of me. This was tweeted on their official Twitter account with a link to the story. And it says another independent artist has accused Bungie of, quote unquote, lifting, which of course is another word for stealing, their artwork in Marathon. And now the gaming community around the developer is wondering what is next. Well, I don't know what's next, to be honest with you. Again, as someone who is never at a loss for words, I don't know where to go. But Jamie, before we get your thoughts, I want to welcome in Mr. Unreal Engine 5 himself, Infinite Umbra, my brother from Chi-Town. How you feeling there, dude? What's going on?
Hey, boom! I'm feeling all right. Good morning to you, fellas, or afternoon to whoever. Yeah, man, happy to be here. A little behind, unfortunately. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. We'll get you up to speed in a hot second.
Yeah, just doing the rounds, I suppose. I have been playing a bit of that Doom. Got to chapter or act 10 right now.
Now, are you completing each level to its fullest? Are you doing the Mr.
100%.
BoomStick XL kind of way of playing? Because I spent 60 hours in the
Yeah.
game. I got 950 gamer score out of 1,000, and I got 100% on every one of the 22 boards. I'm only missing some of the mastery challenges for some of the weapons.
Yeah, no, every stage I've done, I've got to 100% so far. So
Yep, that's what I did.
yeah,
I spent way too much time on some of these stages.
yeah, same. You know how we do, but hey, I also have to do the mastery as well. You get the I guess golden for variants.
Yeah, I got probably around 3/4. There's one level, I think it might be 10, chapter 10 or 11, that has like 10 of them. It's a lot. So I'll get that 1,000 that last 50, but it's gonna be a minute.
Yeah, for sure. Some of them are a little more intensive, but yeah, but I gotta say I like it. I like it more than Eternal.
Yes,
will
it's
say
my favorite
that.
in the series. Yeah.
Yeah, I like 2016, and this one I think fit my play style more than Eternal did.
Yes.
So, but yeah, really good game. But yeah, happy to be here with you guys. I don't want to derail us too much. But
No,
yeah.
no, absolutely not. No, brother, we're happy to have you here. And again, we're opening up with the Bungie controversy. So I'm going to go right back, of course, to Jamie Moran. Now, Jamie, I think I've caught up to date. Now, this is where I believe the nail is in the coffin of Bungie's marathon. So Okami 13 underscore, which is one of my favorite people on the socials. He works tirelessly on Twitter to update everyone with gaming news. And he made a post this morning that is, again, folks, this is the nail in the coffin. So Marathon had its alpha, and we've heard from a lot of people that played it, including Paul Tassi, that said this game needs to be delayed. And that was a story that he wrote, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. And one of the things that came out right after the alpha and all the bad press and all of the bad, conversation behind Bungie's premium title comes, Arc Raiders shows up. And Arc Raiders took the gaming world by storm, and there was been a lot of buzz on it. Now, Arc Raiders is a three-person extraction shooter. Again, not so much for Mr. Boomstick XL, but he posted this, and this is where you know this is the nail in the coffin, Jamie. Arc Raiders has entered the top 10 most wishlist games on all of Steam after the recent Marathon controversy. It's a third player extraction shooter from Embark Studios, creators of the Finals, releasing later this year for PlayStation 5, Series X and S, and PC. So that to me is damning for this game. But again, it's just a stacked deck of bad news for Bungie. You have mismanagement that's been going on for quite some time. You have developers coming out of the woodworks to tell you how bad the management currently is, and even some of the management that has been sent packing, which is unbelievable. You have Marathon that has been in development for many, many years. It has come across lots of controversy. You have art theft. And again, this is now multiple artists that are saying, yes, our stuff was stolen. It's in the game. It's in the level. It's in the design of the characters. And now you have this. Jamie, I don't know what is going to happen to this studio, but I can tell you right now, if this continues, there will no longer be a Bungie. Let's get your thoughts, man.
It's a tough situation to watch. Like, you know how you're not meant to look at a train crash?
Yes.
But you look anyway, and
Yep.
you just can't look away from it. And, sometimes you might see this train crash happening, but you just can't look away. And it feels like it's in slow motion. This is what's happening with Bungie. We are watching them literally crash live in slow motion. And it's awful. Like, Bungie isn't the Bungie we used to love, I'll like Halo Reach, in my opinion, was peak Bungie, right? There was millions of people playing that beta. So many people are hyped. They were listening. Bungie were listening to feedback. How amazing is that? And now, like, they've came this far, and like Destiny's in a weird state because they clearly don't want to make Destiny 3, even though that's the best action they can do. There's a different company making the Destiny spin-off, which arguably looks more interesting than Destiny 2. And, you know, when extraction shooters are about to kick off on console, bloody finally. And Marathon was one of the two shooters that were going to do it. They've screwed themselves over. You know, this isn't the first time Bungie has had issues with plagiarism. I don't know if you know this, Boom, but like, and some people in chat might not know this, but like they were taken to court for story elements from Destiny 2 expansions being ripped off from a different writer.
I did not know about that.
Oh no, it gets juicier. So they were taken to court, and since they sunset their own content, they couldn't show their own content in court. So they were suggesting to the judge YouTube videos of law videos made by YouTubers, and they were like, "No, we're not gonna allow you to show these videos." That they've had issues for years with this stuff. They have people stealing art all the time, and you know. I saw people try and defend it. Oh, it's only art. It's like this is people's livelihoods, right? This person could have been paid upfront years ago, and then being contracted to work on this game. They could have made a living from working on Marathon, but they didn't. They stole art, and then they say it's an older developer that left. This nameless developer. I love
when they say that. Yes.
Yeah, I highly doubt that the bloody art director that was sitting on that chair during that live stream, which was so cringe. It was awful to watch.
It was awful. I feel bad, worse for the artist, but man, that was brutal to watch.
It was hard to watch, but like I feel it hard to believe that the art director knew nothing about it. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of individual art elements in the game when it comes to vinyls and logos and stuff. And you're telling me no one did a passover? Nobody did a bloody, reverse Google search, image search? Nothing like that? I find that very hard to believe. It's lies. And, it's lazy development. And I don't like calling developers lazy. They put a lot of hard work. They put their years, blood, sweat, and tears into these games. But how many times can you steal art, get away with it, and just say, "Oops, it was a mistake. It was an older employee that left." Right? It keeps happening over and over and over again. Bungie they have systemic issues to the core. They need to gut the higher ups, And the worst thing is that, well, not even the worst thing, but one of the worst things is that when if you coming out into the console market with an extraction shooter, you have to let people know, hey. Because they had to explain what an extraction shooter is to the console user base, right? Escape from Tarkov rocks it all on PC, right? Everyone on PC knows what the hell Escape from Tarkov is. Companies want to have Escape from Tarkov like experience on console because it would be absolutely massive. And Marathon was one of the two games that were going to do it. And like me, I talk about Tarkov all the time. Haven't bloody played the thing. I want the game on console, and it'll never come to console. So I want something similar. And Marathon, they're skipping simple things that an extraction shooter would have. And even in their chat, when the people were doing the Q&A, they were asked, hey, we want these things in an extraction shooter. Can you put them in? And, proximity chat is an important thing for an extraction shooter. And the developers were like, we'll think about it. We just want to implement things in our own Bungie way. And then they were asked, will you put solo-only queue in? Because if you want to play a solo in Marathon, you're going up against other teams, not other single players, right? And then they gave away the same BS answer. They're not listening to feedback. They're stealing art on a consistent basis. Clearly, Bungie has been a mess for years. And this goes back all the way back to Destiny 1, right? All the issues with the composer, the Halo composer, I forgot his name. And
it's right on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, they didn't want he wound up winning in court. He wound up beating them in court.
Yeah, and
something O'Donnell.
They've had all these issues for years, and they couldn't get content out on time with Destiny 1 because, the engine was basically, running to its like max core with the amount of content that they could have. It's ridiculous. And you have Arc Raiders. That's it had an alpha around about the same time as Marathon, and it's a stark difference, right? People were playing it, loving it, talking about their experiences, and like this told people like this is going to be the extraction shooter on console, the extraction console game to play, and like nobody really has any issues with Arc Raiders. But you know what? There's people that played in the tech test last year for Arc Raiders. It was a completely different game, right? But you know what the developers did? They listened to feedback. They completely changed everything, and now people bloody love the game. And with Marathon, like Bungie, they were the top dogs of the industry at one point, to the point where now they are essentially up their own asses and they won't listen to feedback. They think they can do no wrong. Nobody can touch them. And, whatever they dish out, they think we're going to pay for it. And, like, in a time where people, like I was saying in the pre-show, like, I think that the max ceiling has been hit when it comes to Battle Royale games. I don't think any other big companies can come out with a brand new AAA, 100-player Battle Royale. I don't think that'll happen ever again. But extraction shooters, that's something where games can be big. But like Arc Raiders comes out, and it's by a relatively new developer. It's a bunch of ex-Battlefield developers where they came out with the finals and knocked it out of the park with that game. You have Bungie that they know to make Halo, excellent games. Destiny, I may have my negative things to say about Destiny, but the thing you can say about Destiny 1 and 2, the gunplay is superb.
I'd say peak.
Yeah.
I think their gunplay is unmatchable. Now, I haven't played it in years, so I don't know if it's changed, but from what I remember, it was peak.
Yeah, incredible gunplay. And like, if they could put that sort of gameplay in an extraction shooter, it'd be potentially one of the best games of the year. But like, the story gets worse and worse. And then we hear yesterday that allegedly they have to be in the top 5 NPD for the whole year to be a success. And the crazy thing about that is we live in a year where we have an Elder Scrolls game out.
Yep.
Expedition 33. The combat system is new to a lot of people, but guess what? Millions of people are loving it. Doom the Dark Ages, even though people are saying it's off to a rocky start on PC, that's going to sell well for the rest of the year. You have Monster Hunter Wilds, huge game. You have Crimson Desert coming later this year. That's going to be absolutely massive. You have Borderlands 4. Despite my problems with Randy Pitchford and what he said today about video game prices, it's probably going to sell bloody well. Mafia, that's going to sell well.
I just pre-ordered it yesterday. I got the $60 edition. I bought, I always get the deluxe edition, but I bought it yesterday. Yep.
Yeah, and that game looks fantastic. It's arguably one of the best years for gaming in years. And you tell me that for this game to be a success, it has to be one of the 5 best-selling games in the US. There's not a snowball's chance in hell of this game doing that well. And the thing is, as you know, Boom, I've been one of the people that's been looking forward to Marathon, right? I've been saying I need an extraction game and it's a sci-fi game. That's a win-win scenario for me. But everything I've seen so far is extremely disappointing. I've been one of the few people online that said, hey, I do actually like the art style. Well, apparently they didn't even make the bloody art style because they stole it all. And the list goes on and on for this game. It's just a complete mess. And I don't think Bungie is what they used to be. I think a year from now, they aren't going to be here at all in any capacity. I think they will be absorbed into Sony. And the team, the third-party studio that's making Destiny Rising for mobile, I think that will be put on console. And that will be the Destiny game going forward. Because what's going on at the minute is an absolute joke. And it's a shame because like Halo Reach was peak Bungie and they're a shell of themselves. It's sad really because Halo Reach was brilliantly received online. Millions, like there was a counter on the top of the screen for Halo Reach multiplayer where it said like I think it was like 2 million people playing concurrently on a 360 on one console.
Unbelievable.
And like crazy. And like people might have their issues with Halo now, but like Bungie knew what the hell they were doing. Customization options. No one did it like Bungie, right? And now it's just a joke. Like, and they try to weasel themselves out of the whole like art thievery thing. it blows my mind because how do you have a studio that consists of hundreds of people? You have an art director that's meant to go over every single piece of art, and they say that they didn't know anything about it. It smells like BS basically,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's annoying because look, I was looking forward towards marathon. I know, like, I have friends that were looking forward to marathon. They have no interest in it anymore, right? I have PlayStation friends. That might be a shock to people, but I have PlayStation friends. They are interested in art creators now because not just because of the whole art thing, but like the proximity chat thing, the solo only queue, stuff like that. It's a mess. And the thing is, everything I've just said with the game itself, when it comes to solo only queue and things they can fix, they can do that. They can patch it. But like, and then we hear that like they move in the open beta into a roadmap phase. We don't even know if the game's going to come out in September now because of everything that's been happening. Like, if I was Bungie, they have two ways to go about it. They have to push the game out a year, right? Push the game out a year, put in every bloody feature people want, put in a PvE only mode where people can play solo, where they can get introduced to extraction shooters, or they should can it. Because if they release this game in September in the state it's in, I can't see it doing that well in any capacity.
This could be a Concord Part 2, man.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to like throw logs on the fire here to burn brighter. It's just what it is. Concord came out. It lasted 7 days, cost $400 million over 7 years, and was canceled. The studio was closed. If this game comes out the way it is, and you have multiple news sources talking about it, specifically Paul Tassi. Now, I don't always agree with Paul, but he did write up 2 stories on this, and this is his follow-up. And if it comes out as crappy as it sounds, their studio is finished. That is it. And you got to remember, what makes all of this, what makes this whole thing just stink to high heaven is the fact that you just had Jade Raymond leave her studio that she created, and there's still no update to what's happening with Fair Games. That is probably a game that is getting canceled. Could you imagine having Concord, Marathon, and a canceled Fair Games in the same freaking year? Like, what the hell is going on at PlayStation? I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. And if that artist didn't pick up on the art, let's say, what if this person decided to buy this video game, and then like months down the road, like she was playing the game, and all of a sudden realized, oh wait, she walked past a wall where she designed half the bloody art, right? It's a complete mess. It really is. And Sony, they having issues with their live service games. Clearly, Factions 2 was cancelled because Bungie didn't think they could make money from it or whatever. The finals, we don't really know what the finals is, so I can't really comment on it. We think it was going to be a PvP heist game. Everyone thought it was Watch Dogs Legion when they first showed it off, because of the hipsters and stuff. But it's a mess. It really is. Like I said, they have 2 options: delay it a year, revamp it, put PvE in, and every feature that people want. And they're going to have to go over every single piece of individual art, right? That's thousands of art assets, from single logos to complete posters on walls and stuff. It's crazy. Or they have to cancel it, because if that game comes out in September, realistically, what's that situation going to be like? I can't see them fixing the whole thing before September. I can't see that people like what are they going to change in the next few months that's going to make people go, wow, this is the extraction shooter that's getting me to play extraction shooters on a console. This is the extraction. Screw Arc Raiders. I'm playing Art Raiders, right? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody, unless they work at Bungie. But even then, that's a stretch because the game looks terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree. Infinite Umbra. I don't know, because I was on another screen when you came in here, but there's a lot to get into with this Bungie story, and it's not good. There really is not one piece of, I guess, evidence that you could use in Bungie's favor. I think Jamie put it the best. The art director, his job or her job, is to make sure that the work that's getting done is getting done right. And that starts at the work that's actually being used. Is this original artwork that their artists at Bungie created? Well, the answer is no, it's not. A lot of it was stolen. We have multiple reports that have Bungie getting, basically called out for it. This happened originally last week with one of the artists. It happened again this week where IGN reported on it. You have a quote coming out regarding sales. The game is nowhere close to being released. It's probably going to be delayed, but according to this new report, Infinite Umbra, if it's not the top 5 best-selling games of the year, it's going to be considered a failure for Bungie. And that, of course, would be a failure for PlayStation and then a failure for Sony Interactive Entertainment. But it's not even, again, if that's just where it stops, maybe if you are a half glass filled kind of a gal or guy, you might be able to find a rainbow in there somewhere. Well, no, there is not, because now you're getting people former, and again, maybe they're being pointed, maybe they're being vengeful, I don't know, but we're getting reports that former Bungie employees who worked on Marathon are claiming that it not only is there mismanagement at Bungie and that the entire staff that runs the company needs to be gutted, but there was toxic like behavior that went on for the entire development of this game. I don't know where you want to attack this from, but all I see is bad news for Bungie, for PlayStation, and for Sony Interactive Entertainment. And again, I know people are going to be like, well, wait a second, Boom. They sold a lot of consoles. Folks, I'm here to tell you, stop talking about console sales. Because yes, console sales are important, but that is not the whole business, which is why they're switching to MAUs. And you heard that in their last financials. But let's keep it laser focused on the ridiculousness known as Bungie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of just flow from the dome, I suppose. Yeah, Bungie, they're a storied franchise, storied developer, I should say. Obviously, they the name. I suppose they're more Bungie in name only nowadays.
Yeah, because all of their original staff seems to be gone.
Yeah, so I can't quite call them Bungie, the Halo Bungie. But there's been a lot of problems with them reported over the years in general. So this, new tweet or mention from one of the former staff doesn't actually surprise me about how they need to be gutted and things like that. We know when the marathon was revealed in 2023, in August of last year, they had a restructuring, if you guys remember.
I do, yes.
And that, resulted in the layoff of like 17% of their workforce.
Yep.
So they've already lost a significant amount of people, even beyond that. So that hurt with development of Marathon and things like that. And I wonder if that went into them trying to, the artists maybe trying to cut corners and say, well, hey, let's just grab this and use this. You know what I mean? This is the thing for me. Sony can't afford another loss like this. Microsoft would even be hard pressed to take a loss of Concord at whatever hundreds of millions it is, because I guess that's still in debate. Oh, it wasn't 400, it was this, it was hundreds of millions. We know that much at the very least.
Right.
That's fair to say. Marathon had been worked on for over 4 years with 300 plus developers.
Yes, just
hundreds of millions.
Yes,
hundreds of millions. Likely going down the drain now. And that's the thing that I would, if I'm a Bungie employee, I will be worried about. As Jamie was mentioning, and you guys mentioned, the guys were being sacrificed on that live stream they did.
Oh,
The audience was just tearing them apart, like mocking them and, talking about them plagiarizing and things like that. And hell, with all due credit for it, because they've earned that, right? You look at this, and I look at it, it's 5 different incidents that we can call back to. 2021, they took it from a fan, the fan art they used in Destiny 2 Witch Queen trailer. They, contacted them and apologized to the artist, credit them after the public backlash. So okay, they made amends. All right, hey, fool me once, right? 2023 Destiny 2 Lightfall cutscene. An artist named Julian Felona had their art taken and used in a cutscene from the Witness Origins without permission. Now they say that was mistakenly used by an external vendor. Okay, cool. Bungie was contacted about that, and Bungie said that they admitted the error. They contacted Felona and they would compensate the person and credit them. A year later, they still hadn't done it. As of September of 24, they not only were not compensated for payment, I don't believe they were properly given their credit either. 2024, Destiny 2, Ace of Spades, Nerf gun, and exotic ornaments, rather. Artist Tofu Rabbit, independent artist. They used his art for Destiny 2 Nerf gun replica and in-game Ace of Spades exotic ornament without permission. Now they at least compensated and credit that person after it was publicized. 2024 again, second artist for Destiny 2 Nerf gun.
It's just unbelievable, bro. Unbelievable.
Yeah, this person was promised compensation, but the artist reportedly got no follow through, similar to the 2023 case above that I mentioned with Felona. And now 2025 here with this marathon alpha art theft from Fern Hook. Now, so it's a crazy what's the word I want to use here? It's a crazy pattern, right? And to me, that would seem very, very purposeful. I don't believe in too many coincidences like that. Shame on me, right? You fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 5 times. You right? Or fool me once, shame on you, should I say? Fool me 5 times, shame on me.
Yeah.
Bungie is out there and still an art. The artist and whoever is running whatever, they're still in it. And I get it. And I feel bad for those who are likely, really doing their work, and this is affecting them too. But at a point, I would feel like somebody in leadership would have to step up and be like, yo, let's tighten this ship, because, all these different incidents, it just makes the studio look poor and bankrupt. All right. And I think we're all inspired by something. I'm an artist myself. I haven't drawn in a long while though, but we're all inspired by something. It's elements of whatever in art, no matter what you do. Nobody is just wholly original and then take inspiration from something. But to take the whole thing of what somebody else used, it's a different beast, and I just think that it's a shame that they have marred themselves this way. To me, I would think, especially with the, I think with the reveal of Marathon, it was kind of, I think it landed with a thud. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
None of us were like wowed by it. Jamie, I know you say you may have been tried to maybe thinking about getting it. I had no such excitement. Like when I saw it, I was like, it didn't really appeal to me. I didn't think the art style was completely terrible, but it didn't look that good to me either. And I look at it and I would say it's a step up from Concord's character art and such and designs, I would say, but it still didn't wow me. And it just looked, somebody, as Danny said, he said it looked like pre-alpha footage that didn't fully load the assets in.
Man, he's brutal.
Yeah, Danny is very brutal. And I couldn't help but agree after I looked at it more. It just looks, I don't know,
baked. Kind of, it's what it looks like.
Yeah, it just looks a little simple, right? A little half-assed, if you will. But I guess that's, art can be that way too. It just didn't appeal to me. Mind you, I'm also not big on simply just doing online only type shooters myself personally. So doing something where it's just purely extraction is going to have a crazy hook to get me. And then you look at other games in the genre, or at least, in the genre that's out there, and games that's coming, like Arc Raiders, like you all guys mentioned. I was actually excited for Arc Raiders years ago when they first announced it. And even more now, seeing the reaction people have had with it, seeing the gameplay. It looks to be a fun game.
It looks actually very polished. Like,
it looks very
really
polished.
Good. Not
beautiful
for me,
visuals
but
too.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in thinking, or is that Unreal they use for that?
I don't know, but if it did, there's your calling card, sir.
They're calling me. I'm just saying it looks unrealish, but and I think Arc Raiders just has a better, different, a more unique style to it. It's visually pleasing. I'm hearing the gameplay is really solid. I don't know. I think you look in the face of that, you look at other games, the Tarkovs that like people will mention or whatever, and you're already in it's a niche market already doing the extraction shooter. You can't have these types of things happen and then I think still be successful. I just think they have a uphill battle, on their hands right here. So Big Mad Mo, I'm trying not to have any slandered. I don't want to have you your comments deleted. We're talking about Unreal Stutter. I saw that. Avoid Rat. That's your first and final warning too.
No Unreal Engine 5 slander, please.
It's messed up because I can't not react when I see it. It's like I'm trying to stop myself, but they know what they're doing. Anyway, that said, I feel like I feel like they got an uphill battle to climb here with this game already, and this right here just hindered it that much more. I'm pretty sure most are like probably going to, protest it in general and not buy it and support it, and that leads to Sony likely disbanding Bungie and sending these devs off to other teams and things like that. That's the unfortunate part. That part I don't like. I don't like when people have to lose their jobs, right?
Listen, I'm sorry. Listen, here's the thing. I cannot sign off or sanction seeing someone lose their job unless they stole or anything like that. You set yourself up. I can't feel bad for you. But to see someone lose their job that was legitimately doing their job, and thanks to poor leadership, things went awry, and now they lost a job because of it. That definitely stinks. But why this story is even worse, gentlemen? And again, this is not piling on, folks. This is just, let's read the room. Let's be fair about our conversation, and let's just talk about it. This is coming off of a story that happened last week where Jade Raymond has been sent packing, or she left on her own, but the studio that she created is no longer under her control. The game that she had her studio bought for, because you got to remember, this is on Sony. I said this last week and I will repeat it again. I know that she gets a lot of slack because she hasn't produced a game in X amount of years. Okay, fine. She hasn't had a winning produced game. I'm not even going to argue with that. But she's a veteran of the industry, and she created the studio, and she made a game, which I thought was going to be single player because that's her forte, and it wasn't. And what it looked like is basically a Payday ripoff, and we haven't heard about it in years. And then last week, she either gets sent packing or she leaves herself, and the studio is up in the air, and so is Fair Games. And again, I said this in the opening to when we brought Umbra in. Umbra, just imagine this for Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation. You have a Concord, a Marathon, and a Fair Games in the same year. That has got to equate to $1 billion worth of loss. How do they?
Close, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, if one game was $400 million over the course of 7 years, how much millions were spent on Marathon? And I would imagine it's a lot because there's a report, like I talked about it before, they need to be in the top 5 sales of the year. Not at the time, not at the month, but for the entire 2025 campaign. If they're not in the top 5, it's considered a failure. What kind of pressure is that? And then, of course, Fair Games. Bro, is Fair Games even going to release? Probably not.
I don't know. And that's the thing. They better hope it does, because not only is that they have to account for the game development itself, but they purchased them. So
yes,
that's a lot of money spent right there. If we're talking about just development costs, it's close to $1 billion. But imagine all the studio pickups and such, and adding that cost from Bungie.
Well, Bungie was $3.6 billion by itself.
So that's billions right there lost right there. That's gotta hurt. Even if Microsoft, if that happened to them, it'd hurt. So
yeah,
I mean, Sony, who has less capital as far as that goes, that's gotta hurt. They don't have the the rich baby daddy, I suppose, or the sugar daddy, like Microsoft, like Xbox does with Microsoft. So how much does that hurt them? I think the craziest part about it is like most of us, including Sony's, our Hoove brothers, most of them were like upset with the whole live push too, the live service push. And I think, this shows why. There's like this, it's a tough market to really get into properly. And like, it just seems to be a crazy mishandling of it already. I just don't think it's a good look for Sony in general. I think they need to go back to the drawing board.
Well, listen, they're in a pickle. There's no doubt about it. But listen, I just want to thank everybody that's here. We have a lot of people watching live. So, of course, I want to shout out 747 people watching live. And, of course, that is across a single person watching on Twitch. Hello, Twitch viewer. Thank you so much for being here. We also have 411 people watching on Twitter and 335 people watching on YouTube. That is pretty dope. Again, folks, I'm always grateful for the views. I'm always grateful for the interactions with the fine folks in the chat here. And I love doing this, folks. This is a lot of fun. Sometimes we got to talk about bad news, and sometimes we got to talk about news that's a bit of a head scratcher. We're going to get into that in a second. But let me catch up on some of the super chats that popped in here. And then we're going to get into a story, ladies and gentlemen, with Shuhei Yoshida. And I know Jamie is chomping at the bit to get at this. And I have a lot to say, and I want this to be clear up front before we even get to super chats. I think Shuhei Yoshida is a diamond in this industry. I think he is. I don't know him personally, so behind the scenes, he could be a total a-hole, and I would never know. But his presence in the gaming industry for as long as he's been around, at least for me, has always been fun to watch. Fun to hear him interviewed and his responses and how he was so dedicated to PlayStation and how he took what I believe to be a slap in the face from PlayStation when they demoted him and took his love of gaming and focused on indies, bringing some of the most amazing indies to PlayStation. That's what he was. He's obviously retired, but again, I happen to have very high opinions of Shuhei Yoshida. That is why I am blown away by his statements. And again, this is not the first Sony ex employee to make these kind of ridiculous claims about what we're going to talk about, but we'll get there in a hot second. Do you Now the Broke Boy Insider drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Boom, have you installed the Doom controller skin?" I have not. You're talking about it for the game? I have not. I know that you can put the old school Doom guy overlay. I have not done that. I've been using my Doom controller because I'm a nerd like that, but no, I have actually not done that. But thank you so much for the super chat, brother. We appreciate you being here, as you always are. Day Reezy drops not one, but two $2 super chats. And the first one, he says, "Boom, which difficulty are you playing Doom on? Hurt me plenty is what I played on, which I believe is normal. I got so OP towards the end, I kind of wanted to up the ante, but again, I was grinding the levels to try and get every achievement, and I'm almost there. I got 950 out of 1,000. I know I saw Nico play Beat It without dying once on Ultra Nightmare difficulty. That dude's got skills for days. I don't know if I'm going to play it on Ultra Nightmare. I got to get back to Expedition 33, so I'm going to probably take a break from it. I don't know if there's going to be an expansion or not. I hope there is, but it's my favorite in the series. And I will say this regarding Doom. Very similar to Master Chief and the grappling hook in Halo Infinite, which I believe they cannot have a new Halo without it. It's going to be super difficult for me to play the next Doom in 5 or 6 years that doesn't offer a shield. That shield is dope AF. We have it's my favorite in the series, and they took out everything I didn't like, and they turned everything I loved up to 11. It is just so fast and so brutal. I loved every second of it.
What it feels like too. It gives it a different feel combat wise because you it's a shooter, but with the
Yes.
shield mechanics, it kind of gives it, as odd as this might sound, it kind of gives it this kind of sword and shield feel.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like you got, like you almost like you have a sword in the other hand. That's what it feels like you're actually doing just, combat. And it's really cool. I like it a lot. Also cool, of course, you do get the mace. So there
Yeah.
is
Oh, yeah.
it kind of is really hand to, I guess hand to hand type combat. So it's really dope. It gives it a
Yeah.
good feel, and you dash into enemies and stuff. It just feels rewarding, and you deflect and bash back their energy beams or whatever at them. It feels right.
When everything is exploding on the screen and you're the one on the other side of the win, it always feels really good.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
Boom, the game is getting an expansion, by the way.
Oh, okay, excellent. I cannot wait. I will I will hopefully have the 1000 because I feel like I shorted myself and I put 60 hours into the game. I have to finish those mastery levels, and some of them are pretty ridiculous. Like the one with the spike where you got to brain spike 50 people. Like that's difficult to freaking do, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like Call of Duty where you can just camp. You got to run
Right.
around and shoot people, and hopefully you hit them in the head. It's crazy, but
Oh, boom. Yeah, with the flail you're talking about. I know. Yeah,
yes.
thank you in the chat. I saw flail. Yeah, mace and flail. They look very similar. But you had a pug master
Yeah.
the supreme. He said
Mhm.
it. He said it. He skipped my super chat. I don't know if you missed the super chat or not.
I don't have it here. Pugmaster, give me a second. Let me just go over to YouTube and pull it from there because it's not on this screen. And usually the software here doesn't miss it, but sometimes it does. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to head over to the earn section and let me go to the
Okay, there you
supers.
go. They can't stop me. Says flail is a chained mace. All right, thank you.
Ah,
So I mean, it's
okay,
fine to call it a mace. It's
so
still the
yeah,
same
so
thing.
I
That's
do have it. It was a $2. So Pugmaster, thank you so much for the very generous $2 subject. It says Bungie went from Master Chief to Master Thief, bro. That's
Oh
the
damn.
statement of the day. It's unfortunately it's funny, but
Master Thief, you want to tell me what you're doing with that art?
Hey, what art are you talking about? The one under your arm. What arm? I don't have arms.
Sir,
It's
you're
bad,
stealing
but
it.
appreciate you, Pugmaster. Sorry that I missed it, brother. But of course, sometimes the software just doesn't get it, and I'm glad that you brought it to my attention. Nino Vistic has gifted one double barrel gaming membership, as he has done more times than I can count. Thank you so much for the generosity, brother. Aloha to you and the family. Hopefully, you are having a great Tuesday. And as he's done before, Aris_EMS has gifted 5 double barrel gaming memberships. Thank you so much for the generosity. And again, he has done that more times than I can remember counting.
Shout out to
Super
Nino.
appreciate that. That is 6 donated memberships, folks. If you did get one of them, be kind and give them a big thanks for that because they don't have to donate those, and they do on a regular basis. And Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for it. But Jamie, let's get into this story with Shuhei Yoshida. And look, like I said, no one's gonna tell me about Shuhei and make him out to be some sort of monster or bad guy because that's just not going to work for me. I've always been a fan of the work that he's done for PlayStation. He has been at least I think a steward of the industry. But this story is a bit of a head scratcher. Now, as we know, folks, I'm not going to talk about inflation on a gaming podcast, but everything is going up, including games. We saw Nintendo shock the world a couple of weeks ago with the announcement of the Switch 2 pricing, as well as some of their games being $80. Microsoft, a couple of weeks later, raised the console prices, the 2 terabyte upwards of $730, which is ridiculous. And they also will be releasing $80 games. And it's safe to assume that some of the big ones on the back end of the year, like Call of Duty, will probably be $80. Sony hasn't done it yet, which is surprising. And we did hear from different people in the gaming media as well as the X community that if you did not already buy a PlayStation 5 Pro, you better go seek one out and buy it now. And that tells me that this thing is going to go up in price, and they could probably, I would imagine, charge $80 for their games this fall. But Jamie Moran, this is today's second topic, and I think it is a story worth a conversation. Now, there's something about Sony former executives talking out of turn when it comes to money. And Sean Layden jumps off the page because we've heard him talk about, how Sony is doing things right by the price raise when they originally raised it to 70. He says that gaming budgets are ballooning. They need to go down. Games need to be shorter. He still thinks that Game Pass is going to fail, even though it is making lots of money for Xbox. And especially when it comes to Xbox Game Pass on PC, we know that they went up 45% year over year, which is almost 50%. And that's a pretty big, raise. But Shuhei Yoshida, sitting down with Yahoo, had this to say. And again, this comes away of Hazador Gaming on X. He goes on to say, former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida says, $70 and $80 games are a steal. Now, I want to go and pull up the article, which I do have in front of me, and I want to read the article, but give credit where credit is due. It was written by Ashley Bardhan. It was written on Friday, May 16th, 2025. And the lead title is former PlayStation executive says $70 or $80 games are a steal, and I quote, as long as people choose carefully how they spend their money, I don't think they should be complaining. Jamie, I had sent this over to you guys. I think it was on over the weekend. It might have been. I said, hey, we're going to get into this. And you immediately were like, I can't wait to talk about this. And one of the things that I want to try and be fair here. My criticism of any executive, this goes all the way back to a couple of things that came out from Mike Ybarra. Remember, obviously, he was with Xbox. He went over to Blizzard. Microsoft bought Blizzard. He went packing and he did his own thing. And he had made a comment where he wished, actually, that he could give developers more money because games are more money to games that he loved, meaning that he wanted to be able to tip the developer. Ridiculous. And I said back then, if you guys and gals remember, this is coming off from a millionaire, right? A millionaire. And Sean Layden is a millionaire. Shuhei Yoshida is a millionaire. So when I hear, oh, well, $80 games are no big deal, and you should be thankful that you're paying for it, I have to call bullshit. I really think that is a load of BS. But again, I'm just going to read from the article. This is Shuhei Yoshida speaking to Critical Hits Games in a video interview during the recent Gamescom LATAM. Yoshida says, when you look at life in general, other products in price have increased, way more than a game price. So I think it was almost too late for the video game companies to start looking at the price structure. I don't believe every game has to be priced the same. He continues. Each game has different values. Each game has different value it provides, or the size of the budget. I totally believe it's up to the publisher or developers who are self-publishing decisions to price their products to the value that they believe that they are bringing in or bringing to the table. I mean, again, not the biggest story because we got to get into the dockable Xbox, which we're going to talk about. And that story was, in fact, from Jez Corden of Windows Central. We will get to that on the back end of today's podcast. But Jamie Moran, let's get right into the $70 or $80 games are okay, and we should be happy to pay them. I think that is ridiculous. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Like you said, it is funny that millionaires keep telling us that we should be paying more for video games. I just saw today, Randy Pitchford was asked, I hope Borderlands 4 isn't going to be an $80 game. And he said, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to get it. Right?
Yep. That's Randy Pitchford for you.
And bear in mind, I've been against video game prices going up since 2020 when they went up to $70. Because in the UK, they just put a pound sign at the beginning, right? £70, that's like $86, right? So it's going to go up again. Not on my watch. I'll always complain about this, right? Because, and by the way, Jeff Keighley has never mentioned this. He also never mentioned any of the negative marathon stuff, by the way. Nobody in the game industry has mentioned what I'm about to say. The prices already went up in 2020. So we just meant to expect the game prices to go up every 5 years now? Is that a thing? And also, Nintendo, their prices went up to $70 in 2023.
Yes.
So in 2 years, they went up $10. Getting a pass because of big open world racing game Mario Kart. We have Forza Horizon, and it's way more detailed and cost more to make, but never mind. Like, people keep giving these companies a pass, and I always say, oh, well, you know what? GTA is worth it. This game's worth it. They are letting people get away with it, and it's so annoying because guess what? 5 years from now, we're going to hear, oh, you know what? Rockstar developers, what do you call it? Red Dead Redemption 3, if that was $110, that would really help the game industry.
Yes, right? I remember that.
It's going to go up every $10 every few years. And I wasn't joking when I said this a couple of weeks ago on my podcast. I was saying that I think in 2032, you are looking at maybe $120 for games. I'm not even kidding, right? Because they keep pushing, seeing how far they can push us, right? And look at game sales, right? I'll use Jedi Fallen Order, for instance. Second best-selling game of the year from when it came out, right? The first being Call of Duty. And then Jedi Survivor, it's a better game. It cost more and sold less, right? Because of $70. Doom the Dark Ages. People keep talking about Steam numbers. Do you know why Doom the Dark Ages isn't doing as well as Eternal? It's going to cost more. That's literally it, right?
Yeah.
And it's as simple as more people look at $70 and think, you know what? I'll wait for a price drop. Unless you make content, there's literally no reason whatsoever to buy a game day one. There isn't any, right? FOMO isn't actually a thing, right? People see someone else play a game and think, oh, I wish I could play that. And then they should just move on with the rest of the day. You don't sit there shaking thinking, I need to play this game because I need to get my high, right? Nobody does that, right? FOMO, people think it's a thing. It's not. Nobody needs to buy a game day one. So what's going to happen is that these games that all of a sudden start charging $80, we're going to see people, less people buy them day one. Less and less people. And then when these executives, these higher ups, see the sales numbers from the first month, do you know what's going to happen? They're going to say, oh, it was a failure. We're not going to give it a sequel. We'll shut down the studio. I've been talking about a video game crash for the past year. This is going to be it. The $80 price tag is going to be it. And then what you see these newer games, some new games released at $50. And what's one of the major talking points about the game? Not other than the fact it's good. It's bloody price point. Elder Scrolls Remake, Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remake, $49.99, right? Claire Obscure Expedition 33, $49.99, right? These amazing games that cost less, and people that don't traditionally like JRPGs or turn-based combat are looking at that price and looking how good it is, actually buying it because it costs less. If that was $70, we wouldn't be hearing about the success it is right now.
I'd like to add to that Split Fiction, $40.
Yeah, and
right. That's a game that's going to be in the talk for Game of the Year, right? Umbro can add to that when we get to him, but that's another one. And if you think about it, three of the biggest zeitgeist games of this year, Jamie, to add context to what you're saying, are under, are $50 or under, right?
Yeah.
You just said it. Oblivion Remake, it is zeitgeist for this year. Expedition 33 is another one, $50. Split Fiction, another one. These have sucked up the air of the interwebs because of how good they were. But you know what was the big talking point? Their price.
Yeah, the price, like I said. And do you know what else? What other game people are talking about price? Mafia: The Old Country, $49.99.
$50. Game looks amazing.
I've been saying, and I'm only talking in dollars because if I talk in pounds, I mean, the price is all over the place. If you live in Australia, the UK, or Canada, we all know we're screwed for prices. So I'm just talking dollars. But like the $50 price tag. I think $50 is what games should cost. And I've seen it today, and I'm going to continue to see it. People keep bringing up 90s prices. It's not the same time. Cartridges were made in several different factories, put together by hand, right? And then put on trucks where they actually weighed more, cost more fuel, cost more to transport, took more trucks to transport. Now, if I download a game, nobody's bloody delivering it on a truck. It's not printed on a cartridge made in several factories. I'm just downloading code. But no, I have to pay more. I swear to God, if I see people bring up 90s prices one more time, I'm going to lose my marbles, right? Not that I haven't lost them already. But I'm sick of the game price talk. We get told time and time again that price is going up. It's because the cost of games cost more. That's not my bloody problem. These games shouldn't cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, look at The Witcher 4. The Witcher 4 is rumored to cost $400 million, meaning that game out of the gate has to be an instant success day one, like 12 million copies, right? All because the budget's inflated. There's tons of reasons why budget's inflated for games. Like, do we need photorealistic graphics for every bloody game? I'm getting to a point in my life where I honestly think, like, I think graphics are just getting way overrated. Like, it's nice to have a pretty game, but if Doom the Dark Ages played like it does and looks like Doom 2016, I wouldn't bat an eye, right? That game still looks good, whatever. Anyway, we keep getting told, the prices should go up, but people's wages aren't going up to match that, right? Inflation is always getting put onto us. And like, look, in the UK, Sony, Sony, they've raised the price of their, consoles twice. They've raised the price. Microsoft, they've raised the price of their consoles twice, right? And now we're told games is going to go up. It's getting ridiculous. Back in the 7th generation, do you know how much games cost in the UK? About £37. Now they're 70. We're paying basically double, right? Am I getting double the value? A game's like twice as better? No, they're not. And by the way, as I'm writing, games launch broken most of the time now. You get a day one patch that's half the size of the bloody game you just downloaded. Developers don't know how to compress games anymore, right? If I see one more game that's over 100 gigabytes, someone will hear me scream, right? It's ridiculous. It annoys me so much because I've been yapping on, and a lot of Xbox fans have been doing this for years. We've complained about $70 price tag, and now we're just meant to like shrug at 80. It's ridiculous. And yeah, like, thankfully, Game Pass is a thing, but not everything launches in Game Pass. People still buy games. I'm just fed up with publishers and millionaires telling us that we have to put up with this. And, it would be nice if we had people in the game industry like Jeff Keighley that would stand up for gamers. But
and he doesn't.
They don't.
Right.
They don't stand up.
He's
for
a millionaire
gamers.
also, by the way.
Yeah. They only in it for themselves. They're only in it to promote their own stuff, right? I think that if, like I've been saying, I think there's going to be a game crash. And what people will be playing for a couple of years before the whole industry gets to act together and realize that you don't have to spend $300 million on a bloody game. We'll be having indie games and AA games, and most AA games are arguably better than most AAA games. By the way, Expedition 33, it's a AA game.
It is, yeah.
And it curb stomps the living hell out of most AAA games. Why is that? Do you know what the writer for Expedition 33 was someone that just randomly auditioned to be a voice actor?
Yeah.
The person that composed the beautiful soundtrack of that game was someone that was putting just random music on SoundCloud, right? There's talent out there that's not going to cost an arm and a leg. You have these AAA A-list actors being hired for games. Like, so there's a new game coming out by ex-BioWare developers called Exodus, right? It's basically a Mass Effect game.
It looks really good. I know you've talked about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hype train the living hell out of it. But like, they've hired Matthew McConaughey, so you have this new studio launching this AAA game in a risky space, and they hire one of arguably the most well-known actors on the planet for a voice. Why? Like, these companies are spending money where they don't have to. And look, I think that, like, people will vote with the wallets, hopefully. But like, every time I see this topic come up and people say, "Oh well, I'd pay $80 for GTA," why? Like, what? So we can get GTA Online slop for 10 years? because you're not going to get single player expansions anymore for GTA. I'm sorry if I'm sound a bit ranty, but like we have this conversation every couple of years because they keep pushing that line, seeing how far they can push it, how much will bloody pay, and I've had enough. In fact, I buy games all the time. I've never once paid £70 for a game. I work a way around it, right?
Yep.
Maybe I get a review code. Maybe I use my Microsoft reward points to bring that price down a bit. I refuse to pay £70 for video games because they aren't worth it. And I'll bring up GTA again. I'm not going to play GTA Online slop anymore, right? And I say that as a former GTA Online addict. GTA 6 is going to come out. I'm going to play 30 hours into the story and then not have another GTA game for a decade and a half, right? So like that's why I'm not going to pay £80 for a bloody video game. Shuhei Yoshida, I'm sure he's a great guy. I like a lot of his thoughts on the indie scene and stuff. But oh my God, we can't keep allowing this to happen. People need to vote with the wallets. Don't buy Mario Kart at $80. Get it cheaper with the console if you're going to get it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Like, I'll use Mario Kart. I'm sure Mario Kart is probably going to be the best one. It's going to be the best Mario Kart game ever made. It's probably going to be the best kart game ever made. But people can't look at that and think, wow, that costs more to make than Forza Horizon 5. So I'll pay $80 for it. Stop letting them get away with this crap because it's working every time. In 2020, me and a lot of other people said, do not buy these games at $70. People bought games at $70. It's infuriating because it's going to happen. So, boom, 5 years from now, when we do the show again, do you know what's going to happen? People are going to mention, you know what?
$100 games.
Should Mario Kart World 3 be $110? That's going to be the topic. And it's going to keep happening until we trading blood diamonds and like limbs for games because it's getting out of hand.
Oh my God. That's a thought, but I hopefully it never gets to that. You know, we don't want a Mad Max and Thunderdome kind of world when we have to get games. But real quick, before we bring in Infinite Umbra, Day Reezy did drop a second super chat, and I was preoccupied, so apologies, Day. He says, Bungie art raiders by day, jewel thieves at night. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, what's going on over there is just... It's crazy. It's just crazy. I will get to the other super chats momentarily. But
they'll never know. They'll never know.
They'll never know. Indeed. Yeah. So, Umbra, let's bring you in, brother, and let's talk Shuhei Yoshida again. I think he is a steward of the industry, and I'm sad that I've never got a chance to just shake his hand and have a conversation with him. But I totally disagree with his take on it. And again, I'm not trying to, I'm not, money watching anybody, but it's safe to assume that if he retired, he's probably a millionaire. He held a very, very high position at Sony for many, many years. And I just find it a bit disingenuous when you have millionaires telling the consumers, i.e. us in the chat here, right? Nearly 800 people watching live, that we should be happy to pay $80 for games because it's worth it. And some of these millionaires are also, pundits in the industry to tell you that Game Pass is going to fail. Game Pass is a detriment to the industry. I'll tell you right now, and maybe this is not going to happen this year, but at some point, if games continue to rise in price, Umbra, I think it almost behooves you as a gamer to have Game Pass in some form or factor. Maybe you don't go and trade your whole PlayStation collection to get an Xbox, but at what point do you look over and say, well, this team over here wants 80. This team is probably going up to 80. They raised to 80, but at least there's another way I can get the same game. And if I pay $30, I can get the $100 edition for 30 and save 10% off that. I think I'm going to start playing on Xbox Game Pass for PC or get an Xbox. Let's get your thoughts on Shuhei's thoughts on we should be happy to pay $80.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think Jamie hit it a lot on the head. I mean, yourself too. Speaking of the kind of disconnect where wealthy dudes are like, that's nothing. Yeah, for you, that's like finding some change in your couch, right? That's nothing for you, Shuhei or Sean Layden, who said the same similar kind of sentiment. Sean Layden, some years back or whatever it was, maybe a year ago, actually it was this year.
Yes.
He said that strong first party like IP, such as from games from Nintendo, can mitigate the sticker shock of $80. And he believes like established games like that and the loyal fan base can justify those higher price points. So to me, when I hear you or read rather you Shuhei Yoshida saying this, Shuhei has this reputation of being a kind of the nice guy of Sony.
Yeah.
The smiling all the time. He looks still,
Yes.
he's smiling and you're like, oh, he's nice. But this right here, I think, shows a bit of out of touch. I think an out of touch sentiment, at least, because I don't think it's a steal. I think you're stealing from me. Maybe I feel like that, like you're stealing from me. $70 to $80 games. I've already said $70 games are a problem for me. I'm not paying for $80 games, right? And it's not like I'm going to get them, but it's not going to be me giving out of my own pocket $80 if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this with having a fallback of using family to help do it. But imagine everybody else who's already struggling right now in this economy and everything like that, trying to enjoy their hobby and play these games and such. Now it's turned gaming into such a luxury. You know what I mean? That's the bad part about it, because the whole Xbox, I think of Xbox's motto of the when we all play, we all win kind of thing. And now it's like when we all pay, then you can, you know what I mean? Then you can win. And it's turned gaming into this thing where, and I've seen a lot of our Who brothers, by the way, broke boys, this hobby is for
welfare pass has been the most egregious thing
Exactly.
I've ever heard, which is just disgusting. Like if you sign off on that, you are a real asshole. Sorry.
Yeah, they are. And they thought that saying that would, some people get, they see the little shiny thing and I can get this. Yeah, for now, until they keep raising the price on YouTube, and then you're going to get priced out. And I get that the cost of making these games have gone up. I get that, but I think that goes in line with sentiments where we feel like these devs, or at least these studios, have to start downsizing on the type of game they make and not necessarily give us super large, overly developed Ubisoft-esque games like an Assassin's Creed Shadows, which by the way, Assassin's Creed Shadow is dope. So there's no shade to them, but I think
it's a big game though. It's a really
big game. Like that map is insanely big and huge, right? Pause. But if you look, I had to throw that. As I said, big and huge. I have to pause after that. But yeah, like you look at that, and then you look at games like the current game of the year with Expedition 33, and they were charging $50 for that. And not even that large of a game itself is lengthy enough. And I've got like 100+ hours on New Game 3 right now, right? But
wow,
and the thing is though, is that like they're not demanding $80 from us for us to have what is now a game of the year, possibly locked shoe in right here. You know what I mean? And so I think that's part of the problem too. And I'm not saying that I don't want these super high quality IP or games, or should I say, made either. I do want them, but I just feel like something has to give. And that's where the instance of Game Pass being there makes so much more sense to me, and that's why I've always defended it. I just feel like it is, the old saying is it's the best value in gaming. Well, that still remains true. The problem is though, is that eventually that price is going to go up on that too. And that's the problem I have with this, right? So it's a tough thing to say. And again, having people who are wealthy tell us, hey, that's a steal, or the sticker shock, you'll get over it, it'll mitigate that. No, it won't. I don't see any Nintendo game worth $80. When people were like, I've debated this with some, Nintendo fans, well, Mario Kart World. I mean, that's the legacy of Nintendo. I don't care nothing about that. Is that game? The cost of Mario Kart World probably was in the 60s or 70 million, if that.
If that, because you got to remember, I guarantee you they used art assets from Mario Kart 8, dude. Like,
of course, Forza Horizon 5 is estimated to cost 60 million. Forza Horizon 5, which looks obviously like, scored super well, looks extremely stellar. New map, new place to be in, tons of content. 60 million to make that.
Yeah.
Mario Kart, you're not going to convince me Mario Kart World costs more than 60, right? No. Maybe 70 if you can get me to get that, but that itself does not amount to an $80 game. So people will say, well, demand, not that many people in the demand of a damn Mario Kart. We have like 30 of them to play. Like let's stop playing this game. Like, well, Mario Kart is super in demand. Come on. I'm sure it's people want to play it, but not to the point of $80. Like, it's ridiculous, I just find it silly. And then you go to Randy Pitchford, like, as was mentioned, and I shared that earlier because I thought, like, wow, like they're really kind of out of touch. Now, Randy has a pretty bad track record in general.
Yeah, he does.
He likes to say a lot of stuff that people just look at him like, dude, shut up, right? Like, it's insane to me to have somebody like that who is over things. And Borderlands, even despite him, has been successful. I don't know how successful Borderlands 4 is going to be, because his comment was, to a fan, was that if you're a real fan, you will find a way to make it happen.
It's good. That is, what that falls in line with. What happened with, hey, if you can't go online, we got a console for you. It's the Xbox 360. Like,
right, we got a console for you.
That is not good.
Go politically, it sounds like Joe Biden saying, vote for me. Are you black? It sounds like that. You know what I mean?
Not good.
So yeah, it's not a good thing to say. It's like, come on, dude. Why would you even say that? If you're a real fan, you'll pay me all the money I demand. If you're a real fan, you'll pay me $100. Imagine that Rockstar starts saying that nonsense. Like this kind of, I don't know, disregard for everyone else that's not, in your tax bracket. That has to stop. We're in a near dire situation, just economically. I just feel like it's just a real kind of tone deaf response in general that a lot of them have. You know what I mean? I can't get with it. And again, I'm already up in arms on an $80 price tag. I mean, imagine what Grand Theft Auto was going to cost now. So
$100 guaranteed.
More than likely, it's just terrible. I don't like the whole way things are going. But I think there has to be a point where we as we have to, I'll say this, and I'm going to address something in the chat. We have to curtail that, because the whole thing goes back to showing what spending voting with your wallet. And yes. So we're gonna have to say, hey, I'm not buying that, and they'll have to get the message that way. That's just what it comes down to. The problem is Nintendo and Nintendo fans. Now, PlayStation guys, they're a little more ridiculous than Xbox gamers. We will say, hey, I'm not going to support that. We will show it. PlayStation gamers, I've seen them like, oh well, hey, you
I'll pay $100 for a AAA God of War 3 or whatever.
That.
Yeah,
I've heard them say it. I'll be sitting there like, what? Nintendo fans are far worse, believe it or not, because as Ped and APLC said in the chat here, almost 69 million copies sold of the last Mario Kart on Switch. That's not on demand, though. I wanted to make sure to highlight that, because then Ren thankfully chimed in right after and said that's mainly bundles. So this wasn't a matter of, oh, we really want Mario Kart. Right. No, this was a matter of, we're going to get a really cheap version of that bundled in with the console that we want. That, you know what I mean? So it's more of them being in demand of the console versus the game. So that's not really a fair argument to make, like, well, all these Mario Karts sold like this. Yeah, well, Nintendo we already know they have a crazy margin of sales when it comes to their
sale of game to console sale is there's nobody that matches them in the industry.
Nobody. So
It's
like
crazy.
yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily a matter of but these are super in demand. I think it's also how they're set up, right? Their first party is them. Like you don't really get a super crazy third party support that we would get on PlayStation and Xbox. Now that might change with this current one coming up, which I already have pre-ordered and ready to get to me, when it releases. But I'm just saying, like, it's a difference of how that was measured, I think. But that said, I stand by the thought of, I don't think Mario Kart itself is such a super in demand title. What do they call it? Adaptive pricing or whatever they call it.
It was the terminology that they did. I could look it up. I don't know it off the top of my head, but yeah, it's something with scalable pricing. That is that is a slippery slope, man, because again, a dev can come in and say, well, we believe our game is $100.
Variable. Thank you, Luis. Variable pricing.
Variable pricing. Yes, thank you.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, you're right. Somebody can come in. Well, I think this is worth this, so I'm going to charge it.
And I guarantee you, it's Rockstar is going to be the one. Well, we 100%. Spent $1.5 billion making this game. It's got to be $100 for the regular edition.
Oh yeah.
Good luck with that, Charlie Brown.
You better know that the scary part is they're going to get away with it, Boom.
They're going to get away with it. Yeah,
they're going to get away with it. And it's like same thing I said with Nintendo with that stupid tutorial demo thing, whatever it is. That's $10.
The pack-in.
People are going watch it be a crazy bestseller. Watch it be a bestseller.
It will be, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the scary part because people are not voting, with their wallet. They're saying, "Well, I'll just get it because I'm a super fan, so I'm going to buy everything." No, we have to be more disciplined when it comes to that. And unfortunately, the whole idea of FOMO has, I think, kind of ruined us as far in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. And I think if we could like hold off and say, listen, I can wait for Mario World 82, that the 82 second version of it of Mario, like we'll be all right. And, but it's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, too many people are going to do what we want, or they'll take it to Nintendo terms. The Nintendo fans do what did they do it? What did they say it? Nintendo don't.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Yes,
right. Xbox fans do what Nintendo don't. How about that?
Exactly.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it feels like a fruitless battle because we're saying, yeah, I'm not going to do this, but then you got all these other guys who's like, I'm buying it. I got to have them all, like Pokemon. I don't know. It is what it is. Yeah.
Again, the whole thing is you're gonna have to vote with your wallet, folks. And I think where the industry is going, Jamie believes that a crash is inevitable. I think he's onto something, but I think the way that we buy games has already changed with Xbox Game Pass, and I think that I can't still, even though I have Game Pass, justify an $80, $90, or $100 game. Like even if I'm saving money on Game Pass, I still can't justify it. I think what's going to ultimately wind up happening for a lot of gamers is that first of all, there are so many games to play that FOMO does not get to me normally anymore. Because I'm so, inundated with games that I don't have the time to play. And I like right now, I mean, you had Expedition 33, you had Doom, and you had Oblivion all release within arm's length of each other. That's a lot of gaming right there. So I started playing Oblivion, stopped to start playing Expedition 33, stopped that to go play Doom. It's, so I think what you're going to get, guys, is a lot of people are going to wait for sales. I think they're going to be like, you know what? I could wait on this game. And I think what's going to happen, again, this is completely just speculation at this point. At the end of the year, there's going to be a conversation of games that were nominated for Game of the Year, games that were in every one of the journalists' top 10 lists, top 5 lists. And I guarantee you that a lot of those games are going to have $50 price tags or less. You're going to have Oblivion in those many of those lists. You're going to have I think Expedition 33 and Split Fiction are going to mop up the awards in December. I really believe that it's going to be those two that are going to be going head to head and just taking one award from each other, one after another, after another. It is going to be all Expedition 33, all Split Fiction, and at the crux of and in the middle of that conversation, it's going to be one game was 40, one game was 50, and what $80 games? What's the deal?
Maybe Death Stranding might make it in there as well.
It could, sure. It absolutely could. It looks amazing. Again, it's Kojima, and I think actually he wound up saying in a recent interview that a lot more people are seem interested in it as opposed to the original. I think because there's more understanding as to what the game is, and it's also, well, it's not going to be available on Xbox day one, but a lot of people bought it, including myself, bought it after having it for PlayStation, bought it on Xbox. And I think that's going to sell. Again, well, it's going to be a big game for PlayStation for sure.
On the part where you were mentioning, I was saying that I was kind of interrupting you, but I was saying Doom. I think part of the issue with people were like all the sales, or the numbers, or whatever. That I think they were saying. I think part of that is because that we are, like you said, we're inundated with so many different games right now, like back to back to back, as our Hoove brothers would say, bankers on Xbox side of things, right? Like we got, there is no FOMO here. We have so much. I guess we have FOMO in the term of we can't get to everything. we got too much to play. You know what I mean? That's the FOMO, if you will, of that. It's like damn, I can't play it all. We went from a drought to like overabundance. This is insane. But just to throw it out there, Xbox Era had reported that Doom, The Dark Ages, was the best-selling game by revenue on Steam during its launch week. Just to throw it out there.
Oh wow! Okay, well there you go.
Yeah, so I think Doom is doing well, but clearly the numbers are different. But I think again, it's a bunch of factors. One of them being that we have so much to play right now. People probably aren't getting to it yet. Like that could be a part of the factor. I imagine. At least, because I mean, still, like with Oblivion, one of my Mount Rushmore games, I put that to the side to play through Expedition 33, and now I got 100+ hours in Expedition 33. Now I'm on Doom. It's a tough thing to try to figure out what to play next.
It's a lot, and obviously, we cannot complain about having. Again, for me, the biggest complaint that I have isn't the quality of the games, isn't the games that are being released for us to play. It's when do I have the actual time? That's my biggest problem. I don't have enough time in the day to get to every game the way I used to be able to get to games. And obviously that has a lot to do with, the fact I produce 5 live shows and I work out 4 days a week and a few other, factors in there. But I mean, again, I just think that the amount of games that have released this year has just been incredible. And we are eating good. And I honestly, look, I know that they're like, for instance, Sony hasn't had a lot of first-party games, and they have Ghost of Yotai at the end of the year, and I'm very excited for that. They have Death Stranding, which is a timed exclusive. MLB did what it did, but that's pretty much it for them. And again, Death Stranding, I think is going to sell well because a lot of people know what the game is now. Right? It's not a new IP. It's a sequel, and I think Ghost of Yotai is going to sell well as well because I know there's a lot of trolls out there like, oh my God, a female, I don't want it. Oh, okay. What can I tell you? But I think I can't wait to play that game. Nintendo has their launch. Cuties. Yeah, I know. It's so ridiculous. Nintendo's launching their new console. Humber, you too. And you know what's funny? I can actually hear someone saying that. That's the sad part of it. That's honestly the sad part. Listen, gentlemen, we're at the 90-minute mark where usually the show is. So I know I had on tap to talk about the dockable console, the Jez Corden story. We're not going to get to it today because obviously I got some stuff to do on the back end before I have to pick up Mrs. Boom. And I really don't want to hold everybody up for a 2-hour show. I'm probably going to bring it up on Thursday's X Vlog Live with C Money. Because, again, there's a conversation to be had about what Jez Corden had to say, what the Snapdragon chipset could do for this thing, and when it actually is releasing. We all think it's 2027. Again, the rumor is that it's going to be Switch-like, where it's going to be a console, which is probably going to be like a Series S version of the magical box that could be $700, $800, even $1,000. That's going to give you Steam. And again, of course, if you're wondering where the Steam conversation is, where Ecstasy's just reported that it's being play tested right now at Xbox, the Steam integration. I saved that story specifically for Wednesday evening because obviously Hargeet Chani and Kay Asante, they're our tech guys. So of course I want to get into the real nitty gritty using their knowledge on what this thing could be and why it's so important to what Xbox is going to be doing. And I got to tell you, folks, again, we're going to get on that here in a hot second. I'll catch up on Super Chats. But we've been hearing since the middle of last year, this potential Steam integration, potentially good old games, Epic Game Store. You heard Phil Spencer say in that interview where when asked, specifically by Paris Lilly, why should I buy an Xbox? And he basically came out and said, well, because it's going to be something that we've never done before. I'm paraphrasing a bit. And they actually need to do that. It can't be just another more powerful Series X because that failed for them in this generation. Their consoles, as great as they are, they're just not selling. Now, why is that? I honestly have no idea. But this next console, right, if it does release in 2027 and it does have a 2 SKU release schedule, meaning you're going to get the big box underneath your TV, whatever the cost is going to be. If you're in, right? And of course, the Microsoft-made handheld that we now know is going to be dockable. So it's going to be like a Series S type of console, which I think is brilliant. You can take it on the go, and you can play these games on your TV, and it's going to be potentially, I mean, again, we don't know what the power level is going to be. Is it going to be as powerful as a Series S now? I think it's going to be more powerful than that. It could be as powerful as a Series X that's dockable. But again, we will certainly see. We're going to cover that tomorrow evening. But let me just catch up on Super Chats and we'll get everyone out of here. We have Do UK now. The Broke Boy Insider drops a very generous additional $2 Super Chat and says, the new Bungie game, ladies and gentlemen, is called Art Raiders. Oh my God, the slander. And you know what? They should get it because they shouldn't be stealing people's artwork. They're disgusting. We have here
somebody like a Tomb Raider. They should have somebody like a Tomb Raider stealing art and stuff from museums.
That would be funny. I don't know if whether you saw my thumbnail, but it has one of the characters with a visor that I put on it that says thief in neon. So,
I saw your thumbnail. Yeah, it looked pretty dope. I was like, oh, nice. That's a good one. Clever.
Thank you very much. We have a good, generous friend of the program, Leonard Herrera, who's been a channel member for a whopping 38 months. Leonard, thank you so much for the outstanding support. He says, Claire Obscure and Doom are eating up all of my free time, and I'm loving it. Yeah, dude, those are ginormous games. And again, when you think about it, those two games, you know what? And let's just bring a third one in. This is why I don't want to derail us, but this is why if you are on the anti-Xbox Game Pass bandwagon, there's something wrong with you. The 3 games that we said sucked up the zeitgeist conversation for weeks and continues to do so is Oblivion Remastered, Claire Obscure, Expedition 33, and Doom Eternal. All 3 of those games inside Xbox Game Pass. How do you beat that? Or more importantly, how do you have a problem with that? Like, you got to be psychotic not to think that is a great freaking deal. But I digress.
We just had Avowed before that too. Like,
I didn't, and you know what? Speaking of Avowed, we got some bad news for fans of Avowed. Carrie Patel has left Obsidian. That story just broke.
Yeah,
momentarily. Okay, so I got it, and again, this comes away. I believe it was. So let me get the person who said this right. Polawar. It's at POLIWA _93. Actually, that's not it. Hold on a sec. I actually pulled the wrong one. Who reported that? That might have been Ecstasies. Let me just see. Well, listen, I'll get it correct, and we'll talk about it, because it's big news. So it's being reported, ladies and gentlemen, Carrie Patel, director of Avowed, has left Xbox Game Studios Obsidian and has moved to Netflix Games, who, of course, released the Night School Studios Oxenfree. So, yeah, I'm actually quite shocked about that, to be honest with you.
They had to offer her a pretty penny because
they had to bring her in.
From Avowed to Oxenfree, not to trash Oxenfree. Almost said something else. Not to I had to catch myself. It was a morning show. I had to catch myself. But yeah, like not to throw shade at them, but like from that to that, yeah, they gave her a pretty penny.
Yeah, listen, it is what it is. Yeah, so again, the story, I do believe originally it was Ecstasies, but I do have the story here from Clobreel, and it says Carrie Patel, game director of Avowed, has left Obsidian Entertainment after almost 12 years at the studio and is now at Night School Studios, which is a Netflix game studios. And Clobreel goes on to say, really such a shame. Loved her work at Obsidian. All the best to you in the future, Carrie. Yeah, I don't know who's going to take over the studio. That's a big loss. That is a monster-sized loss. I don't know why she decided to leave.
Get her in there.
What's that?
Let's get Jade Raymond in there, Steve.
Well, no, we don't. I mean, again, I think Jade Raymond has a great history, but I don't know where she. Maybe she just retires. I don't know where she's going to show up, but it's definitely not good. But listen, let me continue with the super chats and channel member chats, and we'll get everyone out of here. Scott Woodford, who's been a channel member for almost a year. So Scott, thank you so much for the outstanding support. He says, I feel a gaming crash is coming next year with the prices going up. Developers should not have a say on price of video games. Sell games less, sell games less, sell more. I think what he meant to say is obviously the more priced the games are, the less they're going to sell. And I think that's where Xbox Game Pass really comes into the conversation. And I think you're going to see a lot of publishers raise their prices, but I also think you're going to see a lot of developers want to get in on the ground floor with something like a Game Pass, because again, one of the biggest problems for small developers is getting people to see their game. And one thing that we know for Xbox Game Pass is like jumps off the page is every time there's a new game that's announced for Xbox Game Pass, everyone is talking about it. And that game gets that new game, new IP from an indie developer gets a lot of conversation that they normally would not be able to get. I said this last year. If you didn't know, Steam had 19,000 games released last year. 19,000. Could you imagine if you're one of those developers that mortgaged their home to get this game off the floor and to release, and now you have to battle 18,999 other games for someone to buy it? That's just insane. We have Roshan Impenger drops a very generous $5 super chat. And he goes on to say, in a digital world, what is the point of the publisher? Developer to consumer games, I say. I mean, publishers, what they are good for, Roshan, is the money. They pay for the marketing. They pay for a lot of these games need these big publishers. Game developing is super expensive and it continues to go up in price. So publishers are a bit of a necessary evil, at least in my opinion, but I see where you're going with that. I mean, developer to consumer would be great, except I don't know if they could be able to, get a lot of these, even mid-sized games off the ground. Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, the elusive gamer, I am the opposite. I have 460 plus days in GTA Online. Yeah, I know. This is insane. Jeez. If I could only play one game, it would be that. But I do not buy as many games as you all do, so I understand $80 games suck. And I mean, I guess that's a great point. I mean, 460 plus days in Grand Theft Auto online. Good for you, man. Listen, you like what you like. There's nothing wrong with that.
That is
And
11,232 hours.
Jesus Christ. Wow, that's
Goodness.
a lot of hours. That is a lot of human hours. So Do UK now the Broke Boy Insider has donated an additional $2 super chat and says Carrie Patel actually just updated her LinkedIn page. Yeah, so she's gone. That is a monster size loss, at least in my opinion. I need to get some more info. Maybe we discuss this on Friday's Breakfast with Boom, where my nephew Tyler is going to be opening and closing the show, and he actually might be on camera for the first time. I'm very excited for him. He's very excited to, continue to learn how to podcast. But gentlemen, let's get on out of here. Jamie Moran, you have a show happening later today, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called All Things Xbox. That is a podcast that you do on a weekly basis with Logan Meyer. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Folks, I'd like you to tune in. It is a fun podcast. It is a podcast where they talk a lot about Xbox and other games like Mass Effect, for instance. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people check out your YouTube channel called The Elusive Gamer? Where can they subscribe? And more importantly, follow you on social media?
Yeah, thanks, man. It's always great doing this show with you guys. And by the way, I've put over 157 days into GTA Online.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
That is no slouch, dude. No slouch.
And that's why I always say I was a GTA Online addict, and I regret it. I regret a lot of it. Anyway, so yeah, my YouTube channel is The Elusive Gamer. All Things Xbox podcast is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. Unfortunately, because Logan can't do it this week, we having to shift the podcast to tomorrow just for this one week.
Very good.
It should be fun. We're going to be talking about, the Xbox Summer Showcase, the Xbox handheld. We have to talk about Marathon and, of course, video game prices. And knowing me, I'll probably get a bit heated again. But yeah, that'll be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. If anything changes, I'll post anything about it on Twitter. And my Twitter is Jim Moran UK, where it's exclusively gaming and jokes.
Well, appreciate that, brother. And again, folks, just for the clarification, there's no show tonight. There'll be a show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, him and Logan Meyer. So check that out when that goes live. And of course, Infinite Number. Let's sell the brand of the fix. You and Daniel McGee do a great show, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. No, I'm sorry. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on Thursdays. Again, it's the fix, and it's a show where they talk about everything. And occasionally, if you like jokes, you're gonna hear Daniel McGee talk about people who enjoy Nintendo as being cave people and like eat their own poo, which is funny to hear him say. And of course, the podcast is great because it's not just gaming; it is pop culture. There's a lot going on, especially in the wrestling world. I know you guys enjoy talking about that. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to The Fix? Check it out, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. And more importantly, follow you on social media.
Yes. So you guys, of course, can find me Infinite Umber or Umbra Infinite either way on social media. Yeah, man, we're going to have a good show. The Fix, is for, let me sell it for you guys. It's for anyone who needs to learn how to fix things. Just come on through. We'll explain it to you. I'm lying. We talk about a lot of things. It's just get your pop culture fix, get your gaming fix, get your wrestling fix, your wrestling fix, get whatever, right? And we want to expand on that too, like maybe do more talks about shows and stuff like that we've been watching. But yeah, come through. We'd love to get you guys thoughts and advice on what you would like to hear, if you're listening to us talk about it. Very community focused. So, I often reach out to the chat to, reply and things like that. I just feel like it makes the show flow so much nicer, in my opinion. We have a really good time though. We try to stick to like 2 hours, so nothing too crazy. Yeah, come by Thursdays at 8 o'clock Eastern. Myself and Daniel J. McGee. And yeah, go play some games and enjoy. Jamie, you said, what was it, 157?
Yeah, 157 days.
Yeah.
That's 3,768 hours.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Online.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Do you know the scary part? that was only in 2 years.
Oh man!
Holy moly! Wow,
yeah, I was
a time, man. Yeah, Jamie was out there just enjoying the strippers and throwing people out of their cars. I see you.
Basically, yeah.
I see you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, you know what? That's the thing about gaming, man. There really is no wrong way to game. Just enjoy what you enjoy, playing whatever console you find fun, and just have at it. For me, I wish I could have more time, but it's all right. I find a way. Like I said, the other night, I got up at 1 o'clock in the morning to play Marvel vs. Capcom, the collection, and I played Punisher. I ran through it, Punisher, the side-scrolling beat 'em up, which is awesome, by the way. I beat it and I started playing as Nick Fury, and I ran through that as well. I just needed a bit of a palate cleanser after 60 plus hours in Doom. I needed a bit of a break.
Yeah.
I just wanted some old school 2D joints. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, big thank you to all of the super chats, the channel member chats, and the gifted memberships. Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for it. We are now officially 39 subscribers away from 16K. Holy matrimony, we're almost there. If you're new to the channel, if you just found us, please consider subscribing to help us get to that magical 16,000 subscribers, and we'd greatly appreciate it. I hope that we can get there before I fly out on the 7th of June to the festivities known as the Xbox Game Showcase, the community event. I'll be there with Ben Kenobi and the Iron Lords and Kay Asante and a few other people from the community. Web Dave is going to be there. I'm looking forward to catching up with everyone. That should be fun. Of course, I want to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.